Hi, this is Lisa from the Jolly Pad Boutique. Just coming in to show you the difference between having a silhouette stamp and painting the silhouette stamp, and I'm going to do a tutorial on how I did it. So this is the silhouette stamp, and her name is Grace, and she is a stamp from Lavinia Stamps, and she is just absolutely gorgeous. So I got her because she's actually going to be discontinued, and I thought, you know, she's gorgeous. I don't know why I haven't bought her before, so I decided to get her. And then what I decided to do was I decided to paint her. So there she is, all painted up. And it's amazing how different she looks. This is a birthday card for my granddaughter. She'll be 1 in March. I know I'm really ahead, which makes it a change for me, but I really wanted to give this a go. So there she is. And there she is painted. So absolutely amazing. You wouldn't even think it was the same fairy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint, stamp and paint the fairy, our little Grace. Well, she's the large one, and I'll show you what we do. Okay, let's get started. So let's have a look at the colour palette that we will be using. Sorry about the glare. I've decided to go for an autumnal fairy, so I've chosen the oranges as my pure colour. You can twist this round to whatever colour you want to start with. So for instance, if I wanted to start to do yellow, I could have a look and see what other colours complement the yellow, but I decided that I would go orange today, and the colours that complement it with the purple and the blue green, or the violet and the green. So I've decided that I'm not going to really do a purpley based. I'm going to mainly do the orange and the browns and a green. So this colour wheel is just called Colour Wheel, and I got it off of Amazon quite cheaply. One side is to do paint mixing, and the other side is to choose your colour, your colours. So for this fairy here, I did green, purple and blue. So what I decided to do is I thought, oh, I'll just do some blues. Did I do green? I did green, I think. So purples matched as well, so that's why I decided to do this here. So with the purple hair and the blues on her wings as well. So there we go. Let's have a look at what I used. So these pens that I used the watercolour pens, and they are Chromatech pens. So let me just show you here. So they're Chromatech pens. They are a bit cheaper, or quite a bit cheaper than other brands. So I did, when I got them, I did a colour swatch, so you can see the pure colour here and how it watercolours out. And I did that on Lavinia watercolour card because I wanted to show the movement of the colour and how it blends out. So this set comes with all of these colours, which are beautiful. You can mix them and match them. You can mix them and create different colours, and they will always clean off. So I chose a ginger, golden brown. That's the flesh colour. It looks quite orangey, but it's fine. Emerald, a yellow green. I chose a carmine. I went a little bit out there, but I just wanted to add a little bit of red as well. Orange and grass green. And I chose some pastels. So the pastel pencils that I chose are these. So they're Koh-i-Noor Gioconda pencils. They're soft pastel pencils and they come in a variety of colours. So I chose some greens, flesh colour, orange and brown, and the way that I matched those was I just went through, and these are the watercolour pens, what colour they come out, and this red here is just for the tulip at the end. So where you can see here, that's just the tulip. So I decided that I would just add a little bit more of an autumnal brightness. So as you can see, the pastels match it really well. Now with this one, because this one is a, let's have a look what that one's called. It's a golden brown. You can use some pastels to mix and blend to make this colour. But because I'm going to use this colour in the hair, I just wanted to have a little bit of low lights in the hair with a different colour. But I wanted it to complement. So here you can see the greens and the pastels are very close. This is the flesh colour for her skin. And then this is just the green that I am using for the stem. But I also wanted to use some low lights in her wings as well. So that's the colour palette that I have chosen today to do this fairy. So the other things you will need is Versafine Clair Nocturne. Now this is a pigment ink, which means that when you start mixing water and the watercolour pens with it, it will not budge, it will not smear, it will not bleed. A really, really soft brush. This is just in case there's any pastel dust, just instead of blowing and possibly putting saliva all over your card. So this is a Lavinia Stamps acrylic paint. It's a chalk finish in Snow White, and that's to put your layers of colour over. This is a Wink of Stella, and it's clear, and you can use this to move water-based inks. A fine liner, 0.3. Now I don't have a brand name for this. It is watercolour based, so I do water-based, so I do leave it till the last minute. And I used it here to put in a little bit more detail around the wings, to bring out that, and around her hair, and to do the ears and things like that. What else did I use? I used a really fine brush. This is a Lavinia Stamps brush 100. Biodegradable cotton bud, just to do some blending. I used some jelly rolls in the complementary colours. So this one is an orange colour, this is a green, and this one is just a clear to add that bit of sparkle. To do some highlights, I used these pens. So there's two here that are the same, and this one, although it is a Signo pen, the nib is slightly different, so I'll show you that. So there we go. So it's only slightly different. This one's tinier than this one, but only slightly. So they're both white, and I keep a couple on the go just in case they clog up a little bit. They can be quite temperamental. And apart from the stamp, which I have here in my filing system, if you want to know more about my filing system, you can watch my other video. So here in my folder, I'm looking through my fairies, and this is the fairy that I decided to use, which is Grace Large, and she is quite a large stamp, so I decided to use her. So you can see there's a number 31 next to her, and at the top of the page I highlight it, case number 3. So I go to my case number 3, which is here. It's just a CD case. She's number 31. So there's 29, 30, 31. So there's Grace. I can take her out and peel her off. So I normally peel the acetate off like so. And I've got these flexible blocks. This one's from All and Create, to pop her on to make sure that I can get the best print possible. And then I've got a box where I just pop that in. It's all closed up, so hopefully I won't lose anything. So that's my stamp, and I believe that's it. I've just got my cloth, and if I'm a bit impatient, I've got the heated craft tool just to dry it off in between stages. Right, so let's get started. So there she is on her block, and I'm just getting the VersaFine Clair. Now I number my ink pads. I've got 3 and I've got some re-inker. So I number my ink pads so I know which one I need to use next. So number 1 needs re-inking, so that goes to the bottom of the pile. Use number 2, then number 3, re-ink and start all over again, so I know which one I'm trying to use first. I keep the pads like that because when a pad is starting to get less juicy, you can get different effects, so I don't re-ink it straight away. So lots and lots of light tapping, and you can see from the sheen that she is covered. And then let's just pop that like that, and I write Nocturne on the back because the amount of times I work with my pads upside down, I just make sure that I know which colour's which. So I shall pop her about there. Okay, so I keep pressing and press quite firmly. Even though there's no ink on the card, I still keep pressing it and keep it on there for a fair amount of time so the ink can go into the card. So then the beauty of these is that I can put my hand on it and lift. You don't take your hand off of it in case you smudge it. So it is, or move it. There we go. Okay, I did move it a little bit when I placed it, but that doesn't worry me because I shall do a background with her. It doesn't worry me either that there's some gaps here because we're going to be painting over it. Okay, so there we go. Can get rid of this. This is just copy paper, which is there to have a bit of a cushion. Let's pop that in my box over there. So you have it as a bit of a cushion. You can use a stamping platform as well, but as I said, I don't really need it to be completely covered because I'm going to go around it. Okay. The next thing to do is to use the acrylic chalk paint. Going to give it a very good shake. Now you literally need a teeny weeny bit, so I'm just going to put it on my mat. That's all you need. Get my brush, clean it up a little bit from around there. There we go. And now I can start to paint. So let me move this in so you can see it a little bit easier. There we go. So I start in the middle and I work my way round, making sure that I leave a tiny little bit of an outline all the way round. So you can go over it with a fine liner at the end, it's not a major issue, but I just need to be able to see the little bit of outline all the way round. Okay, so she looks like that. You can see that there's some texture, and that's absolutely fine. Leave a bit of texture sort of like round her face here, so that when you add the colour on the top, it makes it look not realistic as such, but makes it look as if it's got some texture to her skin, as you can see there. So I'm going to pause the video and then do the whole fairy so you can see what she looks like. Right, so that's how she looks when she has one layer on. So as you can see on the wings, what I did was I just went over it with a whole wash of the white, and I will only leave that with just one layer in case I want to follow the pattern later on. So if I show you here, I didn't follow the pattern as such, but you can see it underneath as it turns, so you can use it to add depth to your card or your painting. So I will go over the body again with a second layer of white. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some big tips. So start from the middle as you load your brush and work your way to the outside. When you get to the stage where you're doing some fine detail, turn your artwork so you're working down and you're working towards the lines that you need. Okay, so for instance, when I do the tulip, I will then turn it round a little bit more, load my brush, start in the middle, and then as I work to the outside, I'm keeping the detail very fine by lifting my paintbrush, so I'm literally hardly touching the paper at all. Same with her little finger, load the brush and then move up into the tiny space rather than trying to negotiate my way down the tiny space. Okay, so working towards, so when I get to the bottom of her arm, I'm then going to start here in the middle and move my way across where I've got less paint and moving up. Okay, so I will continue and do the second layer and show you what that looks like. Oh, the other biggest tip as well is here, as you can see, I've got less paint. I'm just doing a slight spray of water and mixing it. With the second layer it's fine. I just don't want to put more down and I just need it to be a little bit looser. Okay, so catch you later. Okay, there she is. There's our Grace with our outline all the way around, like so. Now we shall start painting. Right, so I'm going to start with her face, and I'm using the flesh colour number 17. So just going to go over the paint. Make sure the paint is dry because you don't want to get acrylic paint onto your pen. And I'm just going to go over where her skin would show. So the flesh colour looks like an orange at the moment, but it does dry a beautiful flesh colour. And I'm just going over the white like so. Okay, and just over slightly again, just to make sure I've got some even coverage. So you can see here it does look a little bit orangey, but don't worry, it hasn't dried. You can see from the sheen there that it hasn't dried. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the tulip. So the tulip is going to be red. So you can do it any colour you want. Now I'm saying it's a tulip, it could be any flower. And excuse me if I go quiet, so I'm just concentrating going up into the petals of the flower. And notice I'm just turning my work and I'm hardly pressing at all. These brush tips are really, really fine. So you can see here how fine they are. And if I do that, you can see that each of them is a tiny, tiny fibre making the brush. So popping that back on, making sure the lid is really firm. And then I'm going to take the emerald and just do the stem of the flower. So I'm not making it too fancy, but I am making a difference with the fact that it is green and red. So you can see hopefully there that that's all painted on the top. Okay, so let's have a look at her little jumpsuit. So you have to have a bit of artistic license here to sort of, like I did a collar and a sleeve. Obviously you won't see that if you have a silhouette, because as you can see from the silhouette, she is, oh, there she is. You can't see anything, none of that detail is in. So you could put her with a dress or something like that, but I've decided not to. I've decided that I'm going to keep with the integrity of the stamp and do her little jumpsuit, which I would like to have orange. So I'm going to come up her neck a little bit and down her sleeve, so she has a definite sleeve and collar to her little jumpsuit. Now you can see the difference between the orange and the flesh, and as you can see it's drying, the flesh colour is drying nicely. Don't worry about things like that. When you get a little streak down here, it is perfectly fine because the pastels will cover it. So we're going down her jumpsuit. Now remember, the acrylic is dry, so don't worry too much if you go over the outline a little bit, because you can always lift it, or you can cover it with a background. So what I would suggest to do, if you want to do the stamping first and then the background, is that you mask her off. Do the background. So you stamp her, make a stamp on a piece of paper or masking sheets, and then you will need to cover her, do the background, and then paint her over the top. Now with this one, what I did was I did a jelly print with a round jelly plate with a couple of distress inks. They're distress oxides, and I braided them on, and then I stamped her over the top. So you can stamp on top of oxides and then paint. And then this was added in afterwards so that I could go round the fairy with the stamping. But I did this jelly plate first. But the whole purpose of this video is to show you how to paint the fairy. So now I'm going to have a look at the ginger. So if you go back to my swatch card, that's the orange, this is the ginger, makes a quick, really nice shade. So I would advocate doing the swatch first. So as this goes on, I'm just moving it up to the wing. Now you can see that it's not making a huge amount of difference with the colour, and that's exactly what I want. I don't want a huge difference. It is a shade of the same colour. It is not a completely different colour. It's the shading. So I've decided that the light is going to be coming from here. So this back area of the fairy will be in shade. So under her arm, by her wings, and down. Now I'm doing a second layer in the hope that the camera will pick that up. I'm starting with the first colour, the lighter colour, and then going in with the darker and then pulling it out with the lighter colour again. So this is a multifarious card. You can do this with a smooth watercolour card. Now, it isn't imperative that you have that type of card when you're doing this stamping, mainly because you're painting over the acrylic, so the pens will move and they will blend because of the acrylic. If you weren't using the acrylic, you would need to have a watercolour card. So have a practice with your card stock and see what you prefer. Okay, so I'm just dotting again where the shade is going to be and choosing areas just to blend it out a little bit. Okay, we're going to add some highlights as well, so don't worry, just making that sleeve a little bit straighter. So there you can see how wet it is on the acrylic paint, so it will move. Okay, and blend. So that's that so far. So that is her jumpsuit. Now I had a look at my colour wheel and decided that I was going to have her hair this colour, which is a golden brown. So as you can see in the original, her hair is a purple, and we've added some, or I've added some glitter to her hair and a little bit of black for some dimension. So with this, what I did was I googled profile pictures, so well, bodies in profile, faces in profile, because I wanted to see where her ear would be, I wanted to see where her eye would be, where her hairline would be, and I just used a picture, well, it was a photograph of a person. So I'm just doing her hair like that, which shows, if I can show you that closer, okay, and leaving a little space for the ear that we will add later. And I've gone down. Now I'm not worried about this sort of thing coming over the top because the background will cover it and it just enhances it. I've just realised I've missed a little bit up there. So turning the work around. This is very therapeutic as well. So there she is, put that a little bit. Now a lot of the contrast for her hair will be made by the pastel, so don't worry about not using a strong colour, but you can also paint her skin green or purple or blue, whatever colour you want. You can do brown, so whatever colour you want. So my colour wheel suggests green is going to match. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give her boots and her wings a little bit of green. So once again, starting with the lighter colour, let's do actually, what was this one, the ginger. Let's do the ginger down here a little bit, just so it helps with the pastel with the shading when I add the shading. There we go. So there's her boots, and what I'm going to do with her wings is I'm just going to go over the whole wing. So it's a tiny bit awkward, mainly because I do get my head very close, but I don't want my head coming in where you can see it on the camera, because then it will obliterate what I'm doing. Now, because the acrylic is only one quite thin layer over the wings, as this watercolour pen dries, you will see, let's just go down there, the pattern underneath. Now obviously the more layers you add, the less you're going to see of the pattern, except in different lights. So that's a light green. So going back to the original, as you can see here, you can hardly see any of the pattern, but as you turn it and the light changes, it's almost like the pattern comes out and then disappears again. Okay, so let's carry on with this. So now that was the yellow green. Now I have grass green, and we are going to just do some of the shading as before. So underneath her boots, around the back, and the sole is going to be darker. This boot's going to be darker because it is right behind the other one. Okay, and I've gone into, as you can see, this space here. Okay, and then I'm just going to go round the outside of the wings to give it a little bit of a darker colour. Now if this isn't dark enough for you, then go for a darker green. I might add the darker green, but I'm thinking at the moment I'm quite happy with this one. And I'm going to almost do a pattern in the middle as well. Okay, around there. This will help me with my guideline with my black fine liner later, if I've got a little bit of green around the wings. So I'm layering it, but I'm not blending it at the moment, and I probably won't, mainly because I would like the lines of the wings to be very, very clear and distinct. So then I can just add the fine liner to it. I'm not worried about this gap down here because this is the shading of the wing against the body. So you can see here that it looks slightly different, but it really enhances it. And I'm going to go back in with the shade around her boots so you can see the difference. And then I'm going to come back with the pale green and just blend it, just the edges. I'm hardly going into the green at all, into the other green. I've got a piece of paper here as well, which I will clean off my brush pen so it is not too dark and it doesn't take on that green. So you can see now that the bodysuit is dry that that is just shade. It just looks like shade and not a different colour, so it doesn't look like a different coloured stripe down it. Okay, so she is already looking entirely different from the way she was when she was stamped up here. Okay, so now is the time for the pastels. Now all I do with the pastels is that I layer it on top of the colours already there, and pastels smooth out what is happening underneath. So I'm going to go in with the flesh colour and go right up to the line. Okay, now I'm just going to smudge it in a little bit with my finger, and as you can see that line has almost gone round by where it was a definite line down her face. Okay, so once again turning my work and just moving in strokes down Now what adding the pastel does is it smooths out the finish and it just layers it, so it just really starts to feel that it's really taking shape. Okay, let's just do that. There we go. So now I'm going to do the orange on her jumpsuit and her sleeve, and I'm going around where we put the gingery colour. I'm not going back over the gingery colour because that's where my shading is and that's where it tells me to blend, so I'm not going into that at all. So as you can see here, it does look like a definite line. So when I go back in with the shading of this pencil, I can then blend it, and because of the colour underneath I can see exactly where the shade is. Okay, I'm not too worried about going over the line, so like here, I'm not too worried about that because that's what the fine liner's for. You don't want a lot going over because the fine liner does struggle a little bit on the top of pastel. So this time I'm going to take my cotton pad or my cotton bud and just gently blend, and it also sets it. Now you can use a fixative. I would recommend using a chalk pastel fixative. Some people use hairspray, but I find that it can yellow over time, so I wouldn't particularly use that. And I'm just adding a little bit more of the shade and a little bit more down here as well. Okay, so you can see that it's blended beautifully. Okay, now if you get pastel somewhere you don't want it, you can use an eraser for it. You can use one of these electric razors that I've got here, so you can use that, and you can barely see it moving and it will erase what you need erasing, or just use a normal eraser or one of these which has got ink on one side and pencil on the other. I got that from France, but sometimes it smudges your work, so just be careful with that. So now comes to my my green. So starting with the light colour, I'm just going to go over the light part of my wings like so, and the boots. Now the pastel adds a little bit of vibrancy over the top. Okay, and then this colour around the outside. Now I've got a darker green if I wanted to go round in a darker green, but I quite fancy the subtlety of each of these very closely chosen colours. Okay, now you can completely obliterate the pattern underneath by using a another layer of the acrylic or several layers of the acrylic if you would like to do a particular pattern on the wings, but like I say, I just like to create a little bit of depth with the pattern that is already there. Okay, now this was the colour, if you remember, that I had not matched but contrasted here. Okay, so what I'm going to do with this is I'm just going to go round very lightly to show some sort of shading on her hair, some little lines. Now they won't be complete, you won't see them completely, as lines because it's going to be blended. There we go, but it's adding to the shape and the contrast in her hair. Okay, there we go, and I can add a little bit of orange if I wanted to, just to the top, and blend it down. Okay, so you can see that. Right, so let's have a look at doing the fine liner. So when I did this, I said to you I looked on the profile page, and because her head is slightly tilted, you could just put a little cheek colour in and leave it like this and not put her other eye in, because this gives the impression that her head is slightly tilted away, and you could do that. So but I decided that I wanted her to have her eye here like so. So let's just have a look actually at the shade on the skin. So normally I use a pink, but I didn't get a pink out, so I'm going to use an orange and just put a little bit on her cheek and use the orange to shade her arm a bit, under there, her hand, and her cheek, because she's blowing a little flower trumpet. So it's very subtle, but you can see the shading. Now with this fairy, I shaded her with pink to make her very, very pink. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look where the eye will be, and the eye will be about here. So I'm literally just doing a little line with a little dot underneath, like so, barely even touching the paper or the card. And then with her ear here, her face is tilting up, so her ear won't be straight like that. It will be at an angle. I'm trying to make a little elven point as well, like I said, barely touching the paper. And there's her little elven ear. Okay, so I wanted to do some outline for her hair. Now it's quite nice that the pen doesn't work amazingly well on the chalk pastel. I mean, saying that, it is going down really, really well. So that helps by just doing tiny, tiny little dots just around her hair and making this coming down around her ear. So let's just put a little bit. Okay, so as you can see, I made quite a space around her ear there, but I haven't here. It's very, very close to her hair. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some of those lines in that have been a bit lost with the chalk or with the paper, the paint pens underneath. Just going over, making sure that it's all even. Like I say, I'm hardly pressing on it at all. So I'm trying to hold my fingers further up, and I'm putting in her sleeve. So there's her sleeve. I need to put in her collar. So she's got a little bit of a higher collar, and I'm just really just dotting a zigzag around. and then coming in and just going round where the integrity of that line has slightly been lost. So even though you just try and stay right up close to the line and make it even, it isn't always as fine as you want it, but I don't find that an issue. Okay, and just where those lines, like you know here, so this bit here, when you stamp it out, you can see the line there, because there needs to be a white line on a silhouette to show where the different legs are, so it's not a full thing. So then I'm going to go around her boot, just making sure that that outline is there, and it's made easy because Tracy's stamps are just so beautifully done, and using the fine liner really helps. Now you can see here that I've got a line there, so what I'm going to do with that is choose a darker green and make it just look like a bit of shading around like that, and the same with this. There we go. So even though I had that line done by a sort of complementary darker green, I've gone a couple of shades darker just to pull in that shade there. Now I know you can still see the line there, but it is what it is, and I've thoroughly enjoyed taking these to really sort of like a new level. Okay, and now I can just draw in what I've missed or any pattern that I want. I don't tend to draw in too much of a pattern, and it does help that the fine liner is a fine liner, very fine. And as you can see here, that line is still visible. I've tried to put some white over it, but the outline of her will be masked a little bit with some of the colour from the background. So I'm putting in a little bit of black round by where I made those patterns or the shading with my green pen and pastel pen. So really tiny, so you can barely see them, but I'm using really sort of like fine lines, not a solid line at all. Okay. So I'm going to come in with some black and do some dotting in the green. Now this will be covered-ish, that you will be able to see it, but there will be a layer that you will see underneath. Now you can leave it like this and just add the glitter. Be mindful to add the glitter pen first before doing any of the black dots, if you don't want them to smudge and become part of the background, because like I said, this is water soluble, but you might want to you might have a marker which is a pigment based marker, so it won't move with water. Okay, so I've just added some dots there like so. Okay, let's have a look, see how the tulip is. Tulip's not too bad actually. There we go, and just adding that in there. Right, so that's the fine liner I think done. Might want something under there actually to show her sleeve a little bit better. Okay, there we go. So now I'm just going to add some of the finishing touches. I'm going to make sure that my pen is working, and I just need some highlights. So I'm going to go, actually let's try that one. You can do your highlights in pen, you can do it in pastel. It's completely up to you how you do your highlights. So she's going to be highlighted here, and you can just sort of like pull it into the picture, or you can just leave it as is. So there we go. That part of her face will be highlighted a bit. Sorry if my voice has gone a little bit quiet, concentrating. Okay, there we go. Now you can use your finger, you can use your cotton bud for this. It looks very gentle on the pastel. So part of it you might not even see, but like I say, if you layer it, smudge it a little bit. Okay, there we go, on the top of her wing. Okay, there's not going to be really much highlight on there, but it will add to it. And then we go down on her boot and highlight that. Right, let's get a pastel pencil. I didn't get the white one out. Let's have a look. Okay. So add a bit of highlight with this if you want to. There we go. I'll add some Posca pen. What I might do is go over a little bit with this one. So like I say, it's really layers that you're adding. So don't be disheartened if your first highlight didn't show up. It is a bit difficult on the pastel. Make sure that's working. Some little dots and smudge them in. Okay. You don't want it to be completely white anyway, because like with the shade, you need to be able to see the colour underneath. Okay, put on her nose. Now be careful when you're adding the highlight. It might be better to add the highlight before you do the fine liner, because the fine liner may move. Okay, let's have a look. Let's put some of those lines back in. Okay, happy with that. So as you can see, it is very subtle. Okay. Right. So there she is. So now I'm going to add some of my sparkle. So for that I have my Wink of Stella, my green sparkle pen, my clear sparkle pen and my orange. So my orange sparkle pen, I'm mostly going to use that on the tulip, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to dot. So it doesn't change the colour as such. Don't know if you can see that. Okay. And the same with the wings. So with the wings I'm going to do some glitter on this inside piece. You can do the glitter obviously wherever you want. So it's just all dotted in like so. There we go. Just dotting all over. You can colour it. So I do a little bit of the colour, I can show you that might bring some really added interest because it's a darker colour as well. So that's added some dimension there. Adding some colour to it, but it's not adding a different colour, it's just adding the green. So I might put it at the end because it does make it go a little bit darker. Okay. It's nice because, as you can see, on the lighter colour it's really quite dark, but here on the darker colour just adds a little bit to it. Okay, so with my clear pen I'm going to add some sparkle around the outside. I'm not going to go over and over and over it because the pastel may move underneath. But I just want to add that little bit of sparkle all over. And to her boots, just sort of like scribbling it on really. Okay. So she has that lovely sparkle to her. Now with the Wink of Stella you can add sparkle to her jumpsuit. I'm just going to add some sparkle to her hair like so. I'm being very mindful that it will bring off that colour, so I'll show you here again. So I'll go over that, and as you can see when I do that how much colour that brings off. So there we go, it's clean now. And I'm also very mindful because the fine liner can move as well. So she's got a slight glitter to her hair, but then I'm going to come in with the orange and do some little glittery dots in her hair. Sorry, I've gone a bit quiet. There we go. If you can see that, still wet. So you can see that glitter in her hair as well. So there she is, and that's how you put some paint on your stamps. So this is the fairy that I did first of all, blue, purple and green. This is the fairy that I did today, so she's very autumnal. And I did another one. Where is she? There she is. If you wanted to do a different colour altogether, so you can see the difference in the wings. I've got some white spots there as well, some white highlights. Her wings are completely different. And her wings are different as well. So as you can see, you can add or cover as much as you would like. So there's the 3 different colours. Let's see if I can. There we go. There she is. Move that out of the way. All the different colours, one with a background, and all inspired by Lavinia Stamp's beautiful fairy Grace. There she is. Don't know if I'll be able to get that one in as well. Let's have a look. As well as the mess around me. There we go. Right, sorry to make you go all a bit dizzy. There we go. So if you really enjoyed that, please have a go and let me know how you get on. Pop them on the Lavinia page, tag me in. I'd love to see how they turn out. And if you want to see some more videos or a particular fairy painted, let me know. If you want to know how to do the background as well, let me know and we can do that together. But I've thoroughly enjoyed that, and it's very, very therapeutic. Very different way of using your stamps. Right, if you like this, please click subscribe and click the notifications as well for when I load some more videos. Right, well, you take care. Bye for now.